Enjoy this clip from our channel, The Line, which features call-in debates nearly every day. And you can find the link to the full episode down in the description. Anyway, I'm excited for this one. We're talking about Ghost. We're talking about Ghost. Gaz. Am I saying your name right? I would hate to say it wrong and then need to be constantly condescended to by the caller. Gaz in Wales, you are on the line with Jimmy and John.
Hello, gentlemen. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Excuse my accent. I'm not drunk. Don't panic.
It's all good. Yeah, it's funny though. It says you're from Wales. You don't sound Welsh to me. You almost sound, well, go on.
Oh, I'm deep in the South Wales valleys. I can show you I'm Welsh. Use my accent.
Right. No worries.
I wanted to ask you a question, but can I ask you something else first? Or have I got to get straight on to the point?
I don't know which question you were going to ask. So you could have just asked whatever you wanted, and I wouldn't have been able to tell if you do whatever you want.
Oh, right.
I don't know what order we're getting our courses here. Just give me the meal.
Thank you. Have you ever heard of Sir Roger Penrose?
Mm-hmm.
Penrose, yeah.
Yeah, right. I want to clarify that I'm a humanist, but I think everyone's got to be an agnostic. Nobody knows deep down.
Sure.
So Roger Penrose and a surgeon called BIGOT, excuse me if I get his name wrong, is like Amaroff or something that, and they got this idea that the soul, well, the alleged soul, is in the microtubules of the brain. Have you ever heard of that before?
The microtubules of the brain?
Yeah, the microtubules of the brain.
And did he create? I don't know if I've come across this before. I've come across a lot. Don't clip that out.
Oh, well, if you can, if you look on Google, Roger Penrose, probably come under quantum physics actually, and basically, there's a surgeon called Stuart Hameroff claims when you're under anesthetic, the microtubules in the brain, he claims that's when the soul allegedly comes out of the body. As I said, I'm personally
Penrose's theory about microtubes was actually about consciousness and where consciousness emerges from. I don't think he used the term soul in anything besides to maybe mean consciousness, but not as a supernatural thing.
Well, and if I can add, if I can add, the only study that has actually done any kind of work on whether or not there is a soul wasn't actually able to prove that a soul exists. Basically, they tried to weigh a body at certain points and notice a considerable difference, at least, scientifically considerable. And it was easily explained by, various decaying properties of a body. So there's no evidence that a soul is necessary for a body or that one leaves our body once we die. There's just no scientific evidence or empirical evidence for that.
That was a long time ago. That was called the 32-gram experience, if I remember.
Could be. So anyway, I think we could just put it all very simply. Generally aware of his ideas about consciousness, that he believed that there was a quantum element to it, that's contained within the microtubes. The microtubes release those on your death. They get released out into the universe somewhere else, and you could potentially describe that as you surviving. However, whether or not it would be like you would have organized consciousness, that you would be still experiencing like you are now, seems to be suggested. No, not the case. I wouldn't say I find any of that information compelling. And the more we seem to discover about quantum anything, the more it seems to be that every way a religious person has ever attempted to engage it has been just nonsense, and that you're actually safe for assuming they're going to be wrong about it. And then even on the scientific side, it is one of the more complex things to actually solve. It's easier to recognize than it is to model, for example. So I don't think I would put these in any kind of category of something that myself or John can clarify if anything I just said he disagrees with, but I wouldn't say that I sit with any level of angst that one day we're going to wake up and then we're going to be like, God proven or soul found, and it's over. Bill Nye the Science Guy is here to explain quantum Jesus.
I couldn't agree more.
Great.
May I have a couple of more minutes of your time, or have we got to go?
Are you asking, are we going back to you don't have to keep asking, excuse the accent. Are you wanting to go back to the original topic, or what is the direction you're wanting to go now?
Well, I did have two things, if that's okay. The first one is, what's your opinion on deathbed visions?
I think that when you are dying, you are basically doing incredible amounts of drugs that your brain is releasing. And I find that the stories generally are consistent with the person's cultural exposure and knowledge, and that it seems to most often be relative to their geography and where they were raised. So I don't think that anything is happening outside of the brain of the individual that is conceiving these.
Also, just to add on to what Jimmy was saying, what Jimmy was saying, we can't actually determine when these experiences are happening, either before or after, like oxygen flow is restored to the brain, or like somebody's brought back to life or whatever. So there's no way that we can actually delineate that and determine that it's happening during brain death.
No, I wasn't about NDs. I was on about deathbed visions. But the point I'm making, for instance, how could you explain, say you're gravely ill on your deathbed, you're 80 years old, you've got dementia, and then your 84-year-old brother died, you wasn't told about it, and then an hour before you pass away, all of a sudden, you're seeing your brother, he says it's time to come, time to go, and they're aware that the person dying is aware that they died, and they like,
what? Okay, how do I explain? I can't definitively tell you how any story came about. How do I come up with a natural explanation that is far more likely than ghosts exist? By first of all starting with you could be lying, second of all starting with anybody who told you he never heard about could be lying, then third would be you think he didn't know and didn't hear about his brother lying or dying, but he did. So we're up to 3 good candidate natural explanations, none of which I can prove aren't correct, multiple of which you can't prove aren't correct. And so I would never rely on then going like, yeah, okay, well, those natural 3 things, which have been demonstrated to exist time and time again in other stories, I'm just going to take Gaz's word for it, that for sure none of those are the case here. And it's most likely that he actually saw a ghost. Now, as far as seeing loved ones and seeing people, the manifestations of people, and especially having like very strong dreams sometimes while you're kind of still awake, that's actually an extremely common part of death. In fact, spouses often think of, if their person dies, they'll often have dreams of their spouse coming, and I want to say even like lifting them up into heaven. Very, very common experience.
I just asked you.
Yes, I understand. You asked, yes, I do. You asked, how can an 80-year-old individual be dying, not be aware of their 84-year-old brother dying because no one told them that their 84-year-old brother dying, and yet as they are about to die, they see a manifestation of their brother saying, it's time for you to come and join me?
Yes.
And
Okay.
so did you not understand the 3 candidate explanations I gave to you?
Yes, I did. But my final thing, the main reason I called, obviously, it's anecdotal. But if you just say it's not anecdotal and it's fact, it is fact. But just say for argument's sake now, because as I said, I'm an agnostic myself. My stepfather died in 1999. In 2001, my nephew was born, and as he was passing my property one night, he wanted to say goodnight to my mother, and my mother came down the stairs to say goodnight to her grandson, and as we opened the door, he pointed on the stairs and he said, "There's Eddie," and that was my stepfather. Now, how can that be explained?
Sure. How old was the kid?
About 18 months, 2 years old. He never even heard of him.
Hang on.
The
How
man
old
had
was
never
the
been
kid at the
mentioned.
time of the experience?
Around 18 months.
8?
18. Around 2, 3 years old.
18 months old. Okay, is it 18 or is it 2 or is it 3?
No, my stepfather died in 99. My nephew was born in 2001, and he was about 3 or 4 at the time.
Okay, just so you know, so far, this is exactly why I said my candidate explanations start with the honesty of the person telling me. Because you have so far said 18 months, 2 years old, 2 or 3 years old, and you have now landed on 4 years old. If I ask you to tell the story 9 more times, he will be on his deathbed at 100 years old by the time we get done.
No, you're misunderstanding what I'm saying.
I'm not.
My stepfather died in 99.
And then your
Okay.
child, the child was born in
My nephew was
2001.
born,
Mm-hmm.
and then he was about 2 or 3 years old. I can't remember the exact date.
A moment ago, you said 4. And before that, you said 18 months old.
3 years old.
So this is the official range we're sticking with, right?
He was 2 to 3 years old. Either way, if he was 18 months or 3 years old, how could you explain a toddler, either way, saying his name, saying, "There's Eddie Bray"? How could you explain that? And,
And what else did he say? All he said was Eddie? All he said was Eddie. Right?
He said,
"There's
"There's
Eddie."
Eddie Bray." And that was my stepfather's name, who had died.
Eddie Great? Is that what he said?
No, he said, "There's Eddie by day." And he just pointed onto the stairs. Now, that's only thing that have ever make me think, "Oh, that's a bit strange." You know, that can't be explained.
Well, none of this. It's still not an impressive. All he said was the name Eddie and pointed. Like this so doesn't. You said, how can you explain that? I don't know the exact explanation for yours, but here's a candidate explanation. People talk about people named Eddie. People talk about imaginary friends. Your child is around people, and children are in. Excuse me. Wait a moment. A child is an informational sponge. So whether or not your child ever saw Eddie or what, first of all, you don't know. You don't know what conversation your child was ever around your mother and heard about. You don't know what it's not an impressive thing. When you go, how do you explain it? I genuinely don't know what that explanation is, but I can come up with a candidate, natural explanation that we have confirmed. We can confirm other stories that has been what other stories have come from before. And we have zero confirmed supernatural. It was a ghost thing. And so if I was sitting there and I was being you, literally, 2 days ago, I mentioned Amanda Bynes in conversation. And today, my girlfriend was like, whoa, Amanda Bynes just popped up in my algorithm. Why am I getting this article? And I'm not going to sit there and go like, oh, well, probably what's happening is magic or blah, 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 blah. It's a tremendous coincidence. And that's what it is, because we don't know what other things other factors may have played into it. But I'm not going with magic.
You know why that's not a coincidence? Because if I purchase something on Google that I've never purchased before, all of a sudden, when I log on to Facebook, that item is suddenly there. So what you're saying to me, I'm sorry, is nonsense.
I don't think you understood my example. I said it in conversation.
No, I understood your example, but I don't think
in conversation. And then the algorithm. All I am saying is coincidences can have natural explanations. And all you have given us to us as a child pointed and said the name Eddie. And why? What explanation could I have?
Can you explain this to me then, please?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's a tragic story. Years ago, 2 young children died in an house fire next door to me.
Mm-hmm.
And after their passing, new people moved into the property, and things would suddenly move into the cupboards or disappear into thin air. How can that be explained?
Anecdotal stories just don't land too hard for me. Like, I mean, there's several different. No. So, are you telling me right now? Hold on, gas. Are you telling me right now that there's a way that you can verify for me that nobody moves shit around? That personally, as a firsthand eyewitness, nobody went in. And you can absolutely say nobody moves shit around. Just like with the kid, can you absolutely tell me that nobody ever had a picture of this person and said the name Eddie, pointing at it or referencing it or something like that in front of the kid, near the kid, around the kid, or something like that for them to soak it up? And they associate.
We don't even know if it's.
We
don't even know if the kid had a concept of the picture of Eddie, just the name.
Yeah.
He might have thought he was looking at a purple fucking horse on the stairs named Eddie. We haven't established anything about this Eddie was the stepdad, except it was the name in common. So now you're giving this example of creepy supernatural things happening to that are going to be based on the reports they're telling you, and maybe some things you had happen to you. And I'm sitting here going like,
I'm an agnostic.
I get it. And you're asking me, how do I explain it? Any natural candidate explanation.
And all you get, it's anecdotal. That's nonsense.
How is that nonsense? That is the basis upon which most people present their argument. You said, how would I explain it? I can't explain anything I didn't witness myself and can't investigate. But I can give candidate... Stop, Gaz. Gaz, stop. No, I didn't say I can't explain it. I'm saying I can't give you a direct answer to something uninvestigatable, but I can do this. I can present candidate explanations, and we can put a comparison likelihood on something as a candidate explanation versus a supernatural explanation on the basis of how often has this happened. So for example, Gaz, I'm not saying this is the reality of what happened, but the candidate explanation of the story you just made up is something you pulled out of your actual ass because somebody wrote it down and put it up there and then you read it to us, and is a lie, is still much more likely from to the person you are presenting it than some magic ghost things are happening, as those have never been a confirmed, a viable candidate explanation. So if you want one, and we're gonna say in good faith, we're saying you didn't pull out of your ass, I could go with somebody's fucking with them and gaslit them, or people who are looking for signs from ghosts because of confirmation bias tend to misinterpret things that may have even been present before, and now they have much larger significance as things shift or move or whatever else. You are sitting here going, yeah, you can't prove my unfalsifiable claim is false. That's the nature of the fucking thing. But I can give you candid explanations and I can weigh their likelihood. I don't believe in ghosts because none of these anecdotes are remotely interesting. And you tried to start off with something that may have been at least testable. And it seems crazy to me that all of these ghosts that might be hyperactive and mad after a fire and stuff, the moment you want to go in with some kind of good investigative equipment to confirm that shit, the ghosts tend to stop chilling out and be moving stuff around and be so mad all the time.
Jimmy, you were as thick as the mole on your ass.
I'm a stick with the moron I am?
I said you're as thick as the mole is on your arm.
I'm as thick as the motors on my arm.
The mole is on your arm.
I'm as thick as the mole. Well, it's a freckle, and so it's extreme. It's actually the
and it's
the
on his
thickness of
asshole.
only a couple layers of epidermis, so it would actually be relatively very thin. But I will point out to you that I just gave you a rather lengthy and comprehensive explanation, and you resorted to an ad hominem.
Explosive diarrhea for the rest of your life.
Okay, well, it's not going to happen because I'm cholestyramine. It bulks up the bile in my stomach. I'm almost incapable of diarrhea right now. So far, guys, it sounds like I've completely debunked the bullshit you just said, and all you have to say in return is, "No, you bellend."
I know some. I can tell you something you can't debunk.
You've already told me things I can't debunk because you've given me unfalsifiable claims. I can tell you something you can't debunk, Gaz.
No.
Right now, there is a magic invisible wizard controlling everything you say, but the spell, the way it works is you think you're coming up with all of it. You can't debunk that.
No.
Unfortunately, the strings go through the butt. You have Dumbledore in your butt, just so you know. You can't debunk it.
I can tell you something you can't debunk, which is 1,000,000% fact.
Pizza equals cat.
You ready to hear it?
Are you about to reveal your language was your accent was bogus the whole time, or are you going to drop a slur? Which way are we going?
No. Are you ready for me to drop something you can't debunk? 1,000,000%.
All right, but this is if we can debunk it sufficiently, you're getting dropped immediately. How does that sound, Jimmy?
Oh, I doubt he's actually saying anything real. I think he's going to drop some kind of poor Welsh humor.
Right. If I can't debunk what I'm due to say now, you can drop the call. But if
I could drop the call before. Why are you trying to edge me? Hey, real quick, before you do it, I just want to do this. Hey, Arden, no, not yet. Arden, will you go ahead and take off M? You know what I mean?
Yep. You're good.
Okay, it's done. All right, go ahead. Tell us. I'm ready for the big reveal. You know what's so fun about that, guys, is I knew you were going to do some kind of shitty thing. And you know how you were like really excited that in front of thousands of people, they were going to hear you say something bigoted? I took it away from you and I muted you to the master before all of it. No one heard what you said. Only John and I. Poor little Gaz wanted to just jump in with a little bit of transphobia right there at the end. Wanted to see if they could, and it was just, Gaz. I've never seen somebody lose as ineloquently as you. Now, granted, you are Welsh, so you already, elegance is not exactly eloquence is not exactly your people's export, but even if we adjusted it to like a language that doesn't sound like somebody is constantly chewing, like if you were to like put a whole, like, remember those gum tape? If you put the whole gum tape in your mouth, even if you didn't sound like you had a mouthful of gum tape, it would have still just been the most ineloquent way I've ever seen somebody just totally lose. Here are the candidate explanations. They are much more likely than it being goes, oh, you're just thick as the mole on your ass. Oh, you're just a dum-dum. And then you tried to get your little transphobia in there at the end, and you got nothing. You lost. You lost. Well, hey, I hope you enjoyed that clip from our channel, The Line, where a bunch of us, like literally too many of us, do call-in debates nearly every day of the week on matters of science, on matters of humanism, atheism, queer issues. We have awesome shows nearly every day of the week. You want to go check out that channel. And if you want to support The Line, you can do so over at patreon.com/calltheline.